Yeah, I'm breaking my own rules because I know all these teams have games later today, but we are indeed talking about them before the game in a manner that is not really related to the game that they're playing. But this is another piece of news that we had on the weekend that I did not cover because I was on my trip. This is a really interesting article on PittsburghHockeyNow.com by Dan Kinierski, talking about how the Pittsburgh Penguins have sent scouts to Evander Kane's first AHL game. So, from the title, from the thumbnail, from the article, you know we're talking about San Jose Sharks, actually no, San Jose Barracuda forward Evander Kane, because he was sent down on waivers and he did indeed clear. So, Evander Kane, AHL guy, he is the NHL's most, oh boy, how do I say this politely, most difficult, let's just say, player profile to acknowledge at the moment because of all of the stuff that has gone on with Evander Kane off the ice. Gambling issues, marital issues, fake vaccination card issues. There has been a boatload of stuff for Evander Kane the past calendar year, and this kind of thing isn't really new. We had ourselves conflicts with him and Dustin Byfuglien back in his days in Winnipeg, a whole bunch of other stuff happening throughout his career. Let's just say the road has been long and winding for Evander Kane. And even though he was the San Jose Sharks' top scorer last year, getting 59 points, 22 goals in 56 games played, he's a guy that team, and some of the members on that team, just did not want to have around anymore. So, now Evander Kane is in the AHL, he has cleared waivers, and he's in a position where the San Jose Sharks have made it very clear. He's making $7 million a season, but they would be willing to hold on to 50% of that salary, which goes on AAV-wise till 24-25, just to get rid of this guy. And so now, with Evander Kane in the AHL, he already cleared, so it makes him a lot easier of a contract to trade away because he doesn't have that one-way commitment to the NHL anymore. We had ourselves what was a boatload of scouts actually go out there and check out Evander Kane's first AHL game against the Abbotsford Canucks. Now, just to make things clear right here, Evander Kane has played 2 AHL games, both against Abbey, where he has 1 point in those 2 games. He had an assist in his second game, and he had a total of 9 shots combined over the previous 2. He had 2 penalty minutes in his second game, and was a -1 in his first game where he went pointless. This first game is the subject of today's video, as the Pittsburgh Hockey Now article that we're discussing highlights who exactly was in attendance to watch this game on Saturday. Let's take a look at the article and see what they have to say. On Friday, the news broke that embattled San Jose Sharks forward Evander Kane would play for the AHL San Jose Barracuda on Saturday. Before the NHL trade rumors begin to grind gears, it is Kane's first game this season after multiple investigations and a fake vaccination card, which led to a 21-game suspension. The public scrutiny and Kane's reports of Kane's internal behavior highlighted the offseason and burned bridges with the San Jose Sharks locker room. Now, the article highlights how Ryan Bowness, the director of pro scouting for the Pittsburgh Penguins, will indeed be at this game, or he was at the game, but there are some other teams that apparently did have scouts at the game, which was confirmed by sources with first-hand knowledge of the situation. The Boston Bruins, Detroit Red Wings, Nashville Predators, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Dallas Stars, who were playing the San Jose Sharks, were also on the press box list. This means that all of these teams had scouts watching this game, taking a look at what was going on, and potentially checking out how Evander Kane, or pretty much anybody else either on Abbotsford or San Jose, was doing. Now, as you could probably imagine, all these teams having scouts watching an AHL game wherein Evander Kane just happens to be there for his first ever AHL game this season, got a lot of people up in arms. Okay, what the hell? My team is interested in Kane? No way! And there are indeed some other things that you can go out there and use to placate those worries. This is also from the Pittsburgh Hockey Now article. There are a couple of cautionary notes. Scouts often have their schedules made weeks in advance, and local reporters told Pittsburgh Hockey Now that scouts love the Barracuda and Sharks doubleheaders, which are in San Jose because they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so it could be a coincidence that all of these scouts are in the building for the event, and we shouldn't necessarily connect trade rumors to Kane and any of the teams above. However, all of these teams listed could use a power forward with soft hands like Kane, too. And so what I wanted to do in this video is talk about 2 of these teams. Let's talk about Toronto, and let's also talk about Detroit. Not because they're confirmed being in on Evander Kane and they want to make a trade for this guy, no. We're talking about him just because of the idea itself. A hypothetical, okay, how could an Evander Kane-like player do on these 2 teams? Would any of these teams want this kind of player? And Is it realistic, you know? So, when you kick things off with just discussing who Evander Kane is at the NHL level, you could say, yeah, any team would go out there and say they want this kind of player. Under a point per game, 20 goals in 56 games played. He was a 30-goal guy back in 2018-19, and just in general, you know, most of these teams, every team, could improve if they take out one of their guys and replace that guy with an Evander Kane. It's just the locker room stuff, the off-ice stuff, it's all been an issue, which is why he even went unclaimed on waivers. If you add an Evander Kane-like player at 50% retained, so $3.5 million a season, to a Toronto Maple Leafs squad, for example, there is another very deep scoring threat added to your wings to make things a lot more diversified in your offensive pool. Same thing could be said about the Detroit Red Wings. Hey, this team doesn't even need to get that 50% salary retained because they have so much cap space right now. Detroit is currently a playoff contender, and if they added a guy like Evander Kane, it could make things a lot more spread out in the same way, because all of a sudden you have yourselves another added scoring threat throughout your lineup. All in all, just the bare bones, goals, assists, and points perspective says that Evander Kane should be a very welcome addition to your team because he will improve you guys. But do you have the locker room that can accept this kind of player and actually use him in a positive way? Detroit, I'm not too sure if Stevie Y would want to do that. This is a young team, it's a growing team, and having a new guy in town that actually exhibits all the stuff that Evander Kane has exhibited would make things very difficult, I think, just in terms of getting a read on the room and having this kind of personality mesh with the guys that are already there, especially considering the personalities that Detroit has valued in the past and puts a lot of emphasis on, especially when talking about their leaders and their older guys. As for Toronto, you have all that veteran presence that was on the team in Spezza and Thornton and Wayne Simmons. Sure, Thornton is gone now, and sure, you do have some remnants of that left, but is that enough? Is it enough to go out there and say, okay, you have all these older guys in your squad, is this enough to go out there and, let's say, calm the room, keep control of the room while an Evander Kane is there? You gotta remember, for the San Jose Sharks, Kane was with this squad with guys like Thornton and Pavelski and Brent Burns and Vlasic and all that. The Sharks had all of these guys on the team when Kane was here. And the report surfaced earlier on this season that some Sharks just really did not want this guy on the team anymore, period. I get it, most of these guys are gone now, but like, still, with that leadership group, including guys like Patrick Marleau and Erik Karlsson, there is some concern to be had, in my opinion at least, as to how things went down in San Jose, and just considering that locker room over there. We get it, this guy was a productive hockey player who scored points, but there are other parts of your team that you want to keep afloat, even if it means sacrificing a few goals and assists on the year. And even so, what would the cost be for an Evander Kane should a team like Toronto or Detroit make a trade? Not saying they're interested, again, it's just bringing up the hypothetical idea. All these teams passed on Evander Kane for free, albeit with the addition of that full contract and no waiver exemption. So now that he'll probably be taken on for 50% salary retained, and that he is exempt in waivers right now, is that a second or a third round pick? Is that a roster forward that makes a similar amount of money, $3-point-something million? What is the price right now? You still have to consider all of the off-ice stuff as well when evaluating the trade value of an Evander Kane. Had he just been a clean slate of a hockey player with no problems whatsoever, he would have probably been worth a boatload more. Talking about first-round picks and prospects, he would not have gotten sent down on waivers and he would not have gone unclaimed. It's crazy how one player's reputation and value could be diminished so greatly because of all the antics they're up to in their personal life. But again, as we talked about with the Mackenzie Blackwood Instagram situation, you're a public figure. You're a $1 million athlete making tons and tons of money, being on the faces of magazines and being a top guy in the world in this sport. You gotta go out there with a certain level of attitude that upholds that reputation, and for Evander Kane, it just hasn't been there. So, if you're a Red Wings fan, if you're a Leafs fan, talk to me in the comments what do you think about this idea that both of your teams had scouts at the game. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you guys are interested in Kane specifically, but everybody was freaking out about it, so I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on the entire matter over here. Let me know in the comments, would you like to acquire an Evander Kane? If so, what would the price be that you would be willing to pay? Assuming it's 50% salary retained, so $3.5 million a season till 2024-2025. Is that a first? Is that a second? Is that a top guy or a low guy? A prospect? Whatever. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. Also, if you're a San Jose Sharks fan, what would you want to get in return for a Patrick Kane? Do you even want anything back? Is this just one of those things where it's like, okay, as long as he is off the team, I'm good. I don't really care what we could get. Or do you want to go out there and potentially maximize the value of the asset that you do have? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this with Rosén 99. And bye.